So I hang out sometimes with Craig the Obamacare Lawyer. He's a friend, and we've been talking, and he sends information all the time. And it's an interesting conundrum here on the Armstrong and Getty show, because there is unbelievable information coming out semi-regularly about Obamacare. But I get the sense that as an issue, as a topic to be discussed, people aren't that interested anymore because they've kind of sort of gotten the idea it's messed up. I don't know. What else is new? Hey, Robin Williams is dead. Let's talk about that. And we're not here to lecture you, all right? We're here to do a radio show that gets ratings. Now, we certainly have our standards and our ideas for how we ought to do that, but I'm not going to force feed you, the equivalent of radio wheat germ to make you healthier. But I'm telling you, Obamacare is so effed up you can't even believe it. First of all, 13 months later, the mainstream media is to some extent catching up with the Armstrong and Getty show. Thanks to Craig. Craig's article that he's posted on all the... what he does, he's an attorney, but he also... His gig is... He's a broker for benefits for companies. He helps them plan their benefits now and in the future and save money and the best plans and that sort of thing. So he has it from both ends, and he understands this stuff really well. And he makes his living making sure companies understand the reality of it. Not the politics of it or the electoral polls or anything, but this is how it's actually going to affect you. So, which is why he's been such a great, source for us. But his new article is, the headline is, "The total evisceration of the individual mandate. 98.8% of Americans won't pay it." You remember, that's one of the key facets. There are no freeloaders. Everybody's in. Some will pay full. Some will be subsidized, but no freeloaders. There's a mandate. In fact, the Supreme Court was looking at the fine, or is it a tax, that you got to pay if you don't get insurance. We're all in. It's the only way the math works. Well, the problem is, there was no taste for people to get in. The numbers are, the actual numbers, by the way, that nobody's talking about, are way, 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 way lower, maybe 30% lower than the 8 million people that the administration was crowing about. Was that last year? Oh, I guess early this year. So you have to know that. But so after going through all that trouble with the Supreme Court and everything, there are up to 22 different ways a person can opt out of Obamacare. And, I could go through the list, but it covers virtually anybody who's ever had any financial challenge. And then if that's not good enough, number 22 is you experienced another hardship in obtaining health insurance. In other words, if you will sign your name to a form saying you had a hardship, we'll let you out of the individual mandate. It doesn't exist anymore. The company mandates, companies over this size have to, those have been suspended too. At least until after the midterm election and probably forever. So, I mean, it's the bullet train all over again. It's the, what's the other one that just leapt to mind? It doesn't matter. It's the Bay Bridge again. The way it was sold, which was fraudulent, that doesn't even exist anymore. Here's another headline. Obamacare's redistribution of wealth, $12 billion this year and $855 billion over the next 10 years. 12 of 15 insurance so far will be splitting taxpayer-mandated bailouts under Obamacare because they got these companies in based on the mandates and the way the math worked. And now the numbers are nowhere close to the way they were sold. And these insurance companies are saying, we're getting killed. But in Obamacare is a mandate that the taxpayers bail them all out to the tune of $855 billion, almost $1 trillion over the next 10 years, according to the insurance industry.
When's the rubber going to meet the road on all this? Clearly, it's not going to be much of an issue for the election, which is just a couple of months away. I don't feel like it's going to be. I remember a year ago, a lot of people thought it would be the issue. I'm not sure it's going to be much of an issue at all.
I don't know.
When does the enrollment for next year start? I just wonder, is there going to be another drastic change in everybody's health insurance?
Last quarter of the year, I think, right? Last 3 months.
Will it happen before the election or after the election? Because that could make a difference, because I don't know how much of a change there's going to be. And there's only a couple insurance companies in every state. So A lot of us all have the same insurance all the time. Mm-hmm. But it was the biggest change for me in my lifetime of the way insurance works. When we signed up this past year. I never had a deductible that high before for anything.
Yeah, well, it's changed the whole world of insurance, yeah.
The way the prescriptions work for my kids and my wife, that's way different than anything has ever been. Is there going to be a change that large again?
There is going to be another big jump. It depends. It's going to be,
what I wonder.
On average, a couple of $100 a year, if I remember correctly. $250 is the average, which isn't huge depending on your budget, but it's significant. According to
per month that you got to pay, or the deductible? Is the deductible gonna double again? I mean,
pointed out.
It's the deductible that's just blown my mind. It's completely different than anything I've ever had in my life.
Right.
And I wonder if that doubles again. So I can get everybody's attention.
It's going to be a significant increase, according to the insurance industry. Also, according to insurance industry actuarials, who, again, make their living not on scaring you or making you happy, but on being accurate. The administration's attempt to fix the "if you like your plan, you can keep it" lie could cost taxpayers $474 per insured person per year. An absolutely, again, quoting Craig, an absolutely fascinating little nugget surfaced in a story about the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, the PPACA, or Obamacare. Let's see. There's kind of if you may recall setting this up. Let me get to the important part. In layman's terms, this meant that Obamacare's elaborate reinsurance program would funnel money to insurance companies. Oh, that's the bailout that ought to be about $474 per person in your family, in higher taxes or in borrowing from the Chinese. And then one final note, health reform has caused a tremendous upheaval in America's charitable care clinics. A lot of people who depended on charities are now tossed into the whole signing up thing, and charities are shutting down, and then people are going sick, and et cetera, et cetera. So it is nothing like the probably bad idea that was passed in the middle of the night on strict party lines, barely. Before anybody knew it was in it. It doesn't even resemble that anymore, and far, far, far to the worse.
My fear is it just gets absorbed into our lives so slowly over time, and it's a debt that's, just another government debt that's out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's exactly right.
It just doesn't, it doesn't materialize as, enough outrage to do anything politically.
Which leads me to my conclusion.
Which is a good plan if you wanted it to happen.
Oh, yeah. My conclusion is the government, whether it's state government, certainly ample examples in California and other states, or the federal government, they can now officially get away with anything. They can do anything because they're so big and so complex, and we're all so distracted by dead Robin Williams or your football matches or whatever else. Nobody's paying attention, so they can now officially get away with anything.